Shadow Hack. Chapter 191, 4 elites arrive together. H round, 60th round, 90th round, the 100th one, and the cultivation relaying process was completed. The cultivation independent space shattered into nothingness, and Yoon-mu returned back to reality. He discovered to his surprise that his comprehension level was still insufficient to penetrate the Great Sun's secret technique even with 100 tries. Amazing system, what should I do to master this secret technique? Host can manufacture another cultivation relaying globe. Yoon-mu was shaken in his heart. That skill was truly worthy of being called the secret technique of H.A.C.K sect, which served as its foundation. It was extremely profound, and only now did Yoon-mu realize why Li Qinghong had previously said that it couldn't be comprehended easily. Those who lacked innate talent wouldn't be able to comprehend it. This really wasn't just somebody's bragging. However, Li Qinghong and Blade Overlord hadn't considered that this secret technique might be difficult for Yoon-mu. His innate talent was low. Basically everyone around him was aware of this, but probably no one would ever believe that his comprehension and battle prowess were lacking as well. If that was so, how could he have been acknowledged as someone who possessed a battle sage bloodline? Only Yoon-mu knew that his innate talent was mediocre and comprehension wasn't special either. He certainly couldn't be regarded as a heaven's gifted child. The A-grade skill Aurora Killing Justice, which he had cultivated previously, was an example of his low comprehension. That's why now, when he encountered a true top-tier sect's secret technique, he could only gain a little understanding even after 100 tries. It was no wonder then that the Great Sun's secret technique of H.A.C.K sect was only passed on to best core disciples and hadn't spread to other ordinary sect disciples. The reason wasn't that H.A.C.K sect didn't want them to learn it, but that those fluxers who had the qualifications to cultivate it were basically all heavenly geniuses who were the cream of the crop. Yoon-mu certainly couldn't be regarded as a heavenly genius, but fortunately he had the system. After using up another 100 space elements, he once again entered the independent space and continued to gain enlightenment. After another 100 demonstrations were completed, Yoon-mu had only comprehended roughly 60% of the technique. And this was just because of the slight improvement in his perception due to cultivating the Great Sun Tyrant body muscle marrow secrets. Once he went through the third globe, his comprehension rose to 80%, but it was still insufficient. By the fourth globe he finally succeeded. But he still wasn't satisfied and produced the fifth cultivation relaying globe for the Great Sun's secret technique. This time, he finally gained a thorough understanding of this secret technique's essence. If the disciples of H.A.C.K sect learned of such a moneybag who had surprisingly used 5 single-use cultivation relaying globes to learn their secret technique, they probably would smash their heads against some wall and kill themselves. This was extremely extravagant. I understand now, that's why it was so hard. Great Sun's secret technique is truly worthy of being called the secret technique of a sect. After coming out of the fifth cultivation globe, Yoon-mu finally opened his eyes. The next instant wings of the wind appeared from his king crystal armor, and he flew up. 1,000 meters, 2,000 meters, 3,000 meters, 7,000 meters, 10,000 meters. He passed through the layer of black clouds over the hidden domain and reached the border of the star-filled sky. Finally, he saw an enormous red sun like a blazing ball of fire, which was far from him. He sat down cross-legged in the sky. With the support of wings of the wind, he continued to face toward the red sun and began to rotate it with the Great Sun's secret technique. The next instant this secret technique seemed to have attracted a trace of heat energy from the distant enormous sun, which gradually congealed into a ray of red light that fell on Yoon-mu's body. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Suddenly, Yoon-mu felt as if a nuclear explosion happened inside his body. The small egg-sized red sun at the center of his chest, which had appeared after he had cultivated the Great Sun Tyrant body muscle marrow secrets to the 5th level, seemed to be attracted by the enormous sun and gradually began to rise up in his chest. Up to the point when it flew out of Yoon-mu's throat. Instantly, one enormous sun and one small sun faced each other from the distance. Li Yoon-mu suddenly discovered that when he rotated the Great Sun secret technique, the small sun gradually also began to move. Once the small sun appeared outside, it was like a fish in the water. The heat released by the distant enormous sun was instantly attracted by it. If previously the heat energy drawn out by Li Yoon-mu using the Great Sun secret technique was assigned a numerical value of 1, then once the small sun of the Great Sun Tyrant body muscle marrow secrets appeared, the attracted heat energy increased 10 times. No, that isn't correct. The amount attracted continued to increase 13 times, 17 times, 23 times, 30 times. The small sun began to rotate faster and faster, drawing out more and more heat energy, which finally stabilized at 30 times the original amount. Shocking! Li Yoon-mu discovered that the absorption frequency finally stabilized at 30 times the absorption rate when he had started rotating the Great Sun secret technique. Ding! Congratulations, host! The cultivation speed of your Great Sun secret technique increased by 28.73 times because of support from the Sun of the Great Sun Tyrant body muscle marrow secrets. You have also begun to absorb the Sun God flame energy which is being purified by the Great Sun, thus its quality is 3 layers higher compared to before. Ding! Congratulations, host! The cultivation speed of Great Sun Tyrant body muscle marrow secrets increased because of Great Sun secret technique. Presently it has already broken through to the 6th level. Gamble successful. When Li Yoon-mu had chosen to merge the 3 body refining techniques, he knew that Great Sun body refining secrets were extremely compatible with Great Sun secret technique of H.A.D.W Sect. That's why the S-grade Great Sun Tyrant body muscle marrow secrets formed from merging the 3 techniques had become even more perfect. But this wasn't all. On the ground of the hidden domain, 4 shadows were still hack-killing. They were chopping down the dimensional monsters of the hidden domain, one after another at a steady rate. For every dimensional beast they killed, a thread of blood would be absorbed by the shadows. Blood essences then would be absorbed by the sacred purifying pearl near Li Yoon-mu's heart. Those essences were purified and dispersed among the flesh of his entire body, thus continuously strengthening his flesh. Now, when the small sun in Li Yoon-mu's chest was thrown out in the empty space, the purified blood essences didn't follow their initial path of being dispersed throughout the body but instead were drawn toward the small sun. Heat energy and purified blood essence began to assimilate into the small sun. Because of it, it started to consolidate a little and grow in strength. Time quietly passed unnoticed by Li Yoon-mu. By now, he had already lost all sense of it, his whole mind having entered an inexplicable state. At some point in time, Li Qinghong and Blade Overlord returned after checking the final 2 locations which were suspected to be the entrance of the secret region. With this, their search was complete, but they returned without gaining anything. Of the 7 probable locations, not even one was the true entrance. Could the system have made a mistake after the detailed analysis which had lasted 7 days? When the 2 returned and checked the cave, they couldn't find Li Yoon-mu. Where did Master go? At this moment, they discovered a bright red ray of sunlight shining on the ground through a hole in the black clouds over their heads. Facing the rarely seen abnormal situation in the hidden domain, Blade Overlord Lin Jian muttered, "How is this possible? The black clouds of hidden domain have always barred sunlight from reaching the ground, so this beam of red light, where is it coming from?" Li Qinghong extended her hand to let the bright red sunlight to fall on her hand. After carefully examining it once, her complexion slightly transformed. Sun God Flame Energy. This was the authentic Sun God Flame Energy. This sensation, this familiar feeling, the Great Sun secret technique's flame energy which she had cultivated inside her body was being pulled towards this extremely pure sunlight. Li Qinghong's expression immediately changed. Not good, some super expert from H.A.D.W Sect has come. Who is he though? His Sun God flame energy is even more profound than mine. Li Qinghong tensed. The main reason why H.A.D.W Sect hadn't been able to capture her for such long time was that among the disciples at Flux disciple layer in the H.A.D.W Sect, her cultivation of Great Sun secret technique was the most profound. This, coupled with the fact that she also harbored the undying sage blood within her body, made sure that the people dispatched by Chao Tian sect couldn't capture her. However, she surprisingly now discovered that the person sent by the sect this time had a more profound cultivation of Great Sun's secret technique compared to hers. Once they fought, she would be suppressed from the very start. This kind of suppression would be similar to the one felt by the disciples of Chao Tian sect who were sent to capture her. How was this possible when had such a person whose Sun God flame energy was more profound than her appeared within Chao Tian sect? Pa, pa, pa. Li Qinghong's expressions changed again. Out of her expectations, a male wearing a red gown, with a fiery and devilish red hair appeared at the halfway point to the Black Mountain. While clapping, he spoke up with a hint of a fierce smile on his cold face. You really deserve to be called our eldest sister. We just arrived here, but you already discovered us. Flame Devil. Blade Overlord Lin Jian raised his head to look at the male dressed in red clothes, and a trace of cautiousness appeared on his face. Li Qinghong's words were correct, Chao Tian sect's people had really arrived. Then where was their master? Where had he gone? Blade Overlord Lin Jian, I used to be fascinated by you a long time ago. Unfortunately, I never had the opportunity or chance to meet you before. Yet even though it finally happened now, my opponent today is not you. The next instant, a black-clothed youth hovering at low altitude on the northern side stepped on a cold breeze and slowly floated down. I hadn't expected to see you as well, Northern Black Wind. Li Qinghong said enthusiastically, yet her attention wasn't focused on either of the two newcomers. She could sense the cultivation of Great Sun's secret technique of these two people, and it wasn't it. Although they had advanced a lot in the past few years, they were still half a step inferior to her. Then who were above the black cloud just then? Who was this hidden expert of Chao Tian sect, who was sending this blazing sunlight to the ground? We finally meet again, eldest sister. I hadn't expected that you would become even more beautiful compared to last time we met. Northern Black Wind bowed from the distance. There's still me, 1000 kill mo. A cold figure walked out from behind a great tree of the hidden domain. Senior sister Qinghong, you've disappointed me. Where is your master Li Yoon-mu? I want to see this person who snatched our eldest sister. On an enormous black stone on the west side, a stunningly beautiful woman was seated with a disappointed expression on her face. You should be Flowing Cloud. Good, very good, Chao Tian sect's 4 elites have all come. At this time, blade intent like a concealed sharp blade erupted from Lin Jian. Flame Devil, Northern Black Wind, 1000 kill mo, and Flowing Cloud, the 4 famous elites of Chao Tian sect, had all assembled. Chapter 192, Using a killing spell to obtain a sage weapon. All the 4 elites of Chao Tian sect arrived. The reason why Chao Tian sect had 4 elite disciples was because their mountain actually comprised of 6 peaks. The natural mountain silhouette resembled 6 fingers raised toward the heavens, thus the name Chao Tian Mountain 1. If one wanted to be accurate, Chao Tian sect had 6 elite disciples, each of which belonged to one of the 6 peaks. Li Qinghong surveyed the 4 elites of Chao Tian sect surrounding her and then said while pointing into the distance, since all of you have come, Ji Wu and Ling Beishuan, you two should also come out. It's time to settle the old scores with Chao Tian sect. Flame Devil, Northern Black Wind, 1000 kill mo, Flowing Cloud, Ji Wu and Ling Beishuan, these 6 people were the elites of Chao Tian sect's youngest generation. They represented the future of Chao Tian sect. However, only 4 of them were famous. Outsiders didn't know about the latter 2, Ji Wu and Ling Beishuan. Li Qinghong was once the eldest sister from the main peak, thus she knew about the existence of those 2 people whose strength wasn't one whit inferior compared to that of the other 4. Li Qinghong's guess was correct, all 6 of the elites had arrived. Chao Tian sect had decided to launch the Sun God killing spell to make sure Li Yoon-mu was killed. The thought of the great killing spell constructed by the 6 elites caused Li Qinghong's heart to sink. She knew that although Li Yoon-mu was formidable and had several shadows as clones, but with these 6 people attacking together, he didn't stand a chance. Blade Overlord Lin Jian took a deep breath. He was well aware that there was no escaping an intense battle here. Against Chao Tian-sek's 6 elites, even he, a halted fluxer who came from Blood-Ewood, could only deal with 1 person at a time. If 2 decided to come together, he wasn't certain that he could surpass them. When he thought of the Sun God flame killing spell formed by these 6 people, he sighed in his heart. He was probably going to perish today in the hidden domain. Senior sister, we aren't here to fight Lin Jian or you, it's them who will deal with you. Northern Black Wind smiled faintly, both his eyes focused on the peak of a black mountain. There were 4 black-clothed figures standing there in a row. Suddenly, all of them began to rush down the steep slope. These people weren't some nobodies but were actually quite famous. Within the 5th dimension, apart from newcomer fluxers, everyone knew of these 4 people. It's them, Li Qinghong and Lin Jian cried out involuntarily at the same time. That's right, 4 of the elite disciples said at the same time. A terrifying aura erupted from Li Qinghong's body, and her voice turned ice cold. Why are you all acting as hunting dogs for Chao Tian Sect? A pot calling the kettle black. All of us are hunting dogs, just that you and Lin Jian are the lackeys of a trifling ordinary crystal fluxer, one of the 4 sneered. The 4 people coming from the distance weren't any ordinary cultivators. They were all halted fluxers, exactly those 4 mysterious individuals whom Chao Tian Sect had been trying to recruit for the last 2 years. Originally, Chao Tian Sect wanted to use them to deal with Li Qinghong. However, before they had found any opportunity to attack, a sudden unexpected event happened, and she became Li Yoon-mu's follower. Not every halted fluxer had formidable combat strength. Other than Lin Jian and Li Qinghong who shouldn't be trifled with, naturally many others weren't something to be feared. However, these 4 were different. Their group was led by Underworld Hand who was ranked 10th on the list of halted fluxers, only 1 rank below Lin Jian, while the other 3 were all ranked in the first 20. If these 4 joined hands to deal with Li Qinghong, then even without the innate suppression of Sun God Flame killing spell, they could force her into a critical situation. But now these 4 were joining hands to deal with both Lin Jian and Li Qinghong. Chao Tian Sec's intention was clearly just to use these halted fluxers to stall Li Yoon-mu's 2 followers. It was a truly devious tactic to make sure that the 6 elites of Chao Tian Sect to killed Li Yoon-mu. Haha, good move, you've one-upped us here. Li Qinghong's heart grew colder and colder with each passing moment, but she maintained her calm. Killing intent began to gradually rise from the frightful imperial spear in her hand. She was well aware of her capabilities and knew that they would probably be unable to escape today. But even if she hadn't become a follower of Li Yoon-mu, once these 4 halted fluxers became Chao Tian Sec's hunting dogs, she would have perished sooner or later. Now there was only one option to battle. Li Yoon-mu, you don't need to hide, we've already confirmed that you're here. Ah, my former eldest sister, open your eyes wide and see the kind of person your new master is. He's clearly here but doesn't dare to come out. He sold you out without the slightest hesitation. The sinister smile on Flame Devil's face became slightly wider. Ah, Chao Tian Sec's people? You've come rather quickly. At this exact moment, a voice suddenly came over from above the black clouds in the sky. Li Qinghong and Lin Jian started, looking up. They hadn't expected that Li Yoon-mu was really here. They believed that he had already escaped in front of such a powerful enemy. Li Qinghong suddenly thought of something and looked at Li Yoon-mu who was slowly descending from the sky, with a shocked gaze. But as she watched him, her expression began to become more and more confused. She couldn't sense the extremely pure Sun God flame energy on him, not even the slightest hint of it. But then, how could there be such a coincidence that he was descending from the location of the sunlight? You're Li Yoon-mu? You do seem quite powerful and also have great courage, no wonder you were able to snatch our eldest sister. However, if you'd known about her story, then you wouldn't have done that. Flowing Cloud, who was sitting upon the black rock, raised her face slightly to look at Lee Yoon-mu, who was descending from the sky. Her words were full of admiration, but her beautiful face revealed a hint of disdain. "Who are you again? You're quite beautiful, but I've no interest in you," Lee Yoon-mu said as he landed on the ground. The smiles on the faces of H.A.C.K's disciples became increasingly more eye-catching. Everyone had told them that this person was extremely egotistical, and today they saw it themselves. He wasn't just egotistical, but extremely arrogant as well. He clearly knew that the 6 of them were going to use Sun God Flame killing spell to kill him, but surprisingly he still had the courage to land in the middle of them. He was simply courting death. "Lee Yoon-mu, we will give you a final opportunity. If you surrender yourself to H.A.C.K together with eldest sister Qinghong and Blade Overlord, we will not kill you," Northern Black Wind suddenly said. His words represented the whole of H.A.C.K, since he was the elite disciple of the main peak. His position was the highest and so was his strength. All outsiders feared Flame Devil because his way of handling things was extremely sinister. But the truly most formidable disciple of H.A.C.K was certainly Northern Black Wind. Reportedly, he was the closest to Li Qinghong in strength. "Then today I will also give you my reply to H.A.C.K. You all leave now, and we won't need to cross paths ever again," Lee Yoon-mu said indifferently. "You don't know how high are the heavens and how deep is the earth. What qualifications do you have to negotiate with our H.A.C.? Attack!" A hint of killing intent appeared on the face of Thousand Kill Mo. His 5 fingers opened and clenched. Identical red flags appeared in the hands of all 6 people. A red sun was engraved on top of each one, while 6 Chaotian mountain peaks were on their other sides. These were the spell formation flags of the 6-corner Sun God Flame killing spell which H.A.C. had decided to use to deal a critical blow to Lee Yoon-mu. It was also the spell viewed by H.A.C. as the most consuming killing one, which could be considered as one of their greatest treasures. Although they weren't using 6 transcending sage tools, only the 6 fifth-dimensional treasure weapons, to construct it, this was still sufficient to deal with a person of the 5th dimension. Within the 5th dimension, the only person who could face this killing spell at its full strength was Zihanbei. However, Lee Yoon-mu wasn't him. "Die now. By refining you, we will obtain another transcending sage tool." Flame Devil howled with laughter while inserting the Sun God Flame killing flag into the ground. Chapter 193, Great Sun Attains Minor Threshold. H.A.C.'s 6 elite disciples clearly didn't intend to personally slay Lee Yoon-mu. They weren't that stupid, and H.A.C. didn't allow them to handle things this way, either. Regardless of the fact that they disdained Lee Yoon-mu, his capabilities had already been proven. It didn't matter what tactics this youth had used, he was still someone who had cleared the 25th level of the Tower of Glory with a cultivation of ordinary crystal layer, as well as someone who managed to force Li Qinghong and Lin Jian to become his followers. This was sufficient for H.A.C. to be on guard against him. Thus, the 6 people didn't make any movements to engage Lee Yoon-mu in close combat besides constructing the killing spell. These 6 were considered the hope of H.A.C.'s youngest generation. If any of them perished, it would certainly be a great loss. Once the 6-corner flame killing flags were placed, a turbulent transformation happened to Lee Yoon-mu's surroundings. Once the 6 people poured the Sun God Flame energy into the flag, they began to shake fiercely. Gradually, 6 void doors opened up at the location of the flags. In the depths of those 6 doors, space rippled, then shaped into smooth spatial mirrors. Once these smooth mirrors were formed, a major upheaval happened within most of the Moro Mountain Tenebrous hidden domain. The black clouds above didn't dare to congeal anymore, seemingly having been dispersed by the invisible push of the spatial mirrors, and a scorching sun appeared in the sky. Its blazing energy seemed to be attracted by the 6th spatial mirror, and little by little, more heat energy was cast toward them. Buzz 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 buzz. One beam of blazing sun energy followed by another fell on the 6 spatial mirrors and was reflected back. Every beam's temperature became frighteningly high after being reflected. The 6 spatial mirrors, which were being controlled using the Sun God flame killing flags, turned toward Lee Yoon-mu, who was standing at the center, and reflected all the heat beams. This was the Great Sun secret technique of H.A.D.W sect. The Sun God flame energy, which appeared after cultivating this technique, together with treasure weapons, would allow people to utilize the killing power of the sun. Even if the elites couldn't display the peak power of this killing spell since they didn't have the 6 transcending sage weapons, how could a trifling flux disciple resist against the killing power of the flame energy of the sun? In a split second, all 6 spatial mirrors simultaneously aimed at Lee Yoon-mu. The Sun God flame killing spell was a success. The 6 blazing killing shots rushed out with extremely fast speed. Lee Yoon-mu's 5th level insect step wasn't even worth mentioning in front of such heat energy. But the 6 people felt extremely weird when Lee Yoon-mu didn't even try to dodge or even seem to have any intention of trying to struggle. Not one bit. He kept standing there calmly, watching everything happening in front of him. When confronting the killing spell's formidable might, Lee Yoon-mu must be feeling hopeless, thought Flame Devil and the others. However, their expressions soon changed, because the extremely terrifying killing heat energy which fell on Lee Yoon-mu's body completely disappeared without a trace, like water mixing with milk. And Lee Yoon-mu kept on watching them attentively, with the same dull expression. How is this possible? He is human, not God. A hint of irresistible fear took shape inside H.A.D.W sect's 6 elite disciples. They subconsciously increased the output of Sun God flame energy. However, Lee Yoon-mu still remained motionless, like a mountain, like he had taken roots there. This is the greatest treasure of H.A.D.W sect, Sun God flame killing spell? This is actually really formidable, the burst damage of this spell is simply terrifying. Finally, Lee Yoon-mu reacted. His lips curled slightly upwards to form a smile. At this moment, although nothing was heard by the 6 elites of H.A.D.W sect, one after another, a series of notifications from the system echoed within Lee Yoon-mu's consciousness in succession. Ding! Congratulations, host! Your Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow Secrets has rapidly advanced after receiving extremely pure Sun God flame energy from the outside. Your Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow Secrets broke through to the 8th level. Ding! Congratulations, host! Your H.A.D.W sect's Great Sun secret technique has finally advanced from initial stage of minor threshold to middle stage because of receiving extremely pure Sun God flame energy. Your Sun God flame energy has become even more pure and profound. Ding! Congratulations, host! Your Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow Secrets has advanced rapidly and broken through to the 9th level after receiving extremely pure Sun God flame energy from the outside world. Your H.A.D.W sect's Great Sun secret technique has advanced from minor threshold middle stage to minor threshold late stage. Because of the formidable might of the 6 elites of H.A.D.W sect, Lee Yoon-mu's Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow Secrets were quickly advancing. This S-grade supreme body refining technique's first level required 10,000 points to be cultivated, but it was now receiving the heat energy reflected by the 6 spatial mirrors. This allowed Lee Yoon-mu's technique to advance without requiring ability points. Every level he advanced was equivalent to 80,000, 90,000, or even 100,000 ability points. At this moment, how could Lee Yoon-mu not feel extremely excited? He had never anticipated that the killing spell which H.A.D.W sect considered as their most guarded secret would turn out to be such a supreme treasure for him. If this wasn't a precious supplement, then what was? Apart from the Great Sun Body Muscle Marrow Secrets swiftly rising, the Great Sun secret technique he had learned from Li Qinghong was also advancing rapidly. Previously, the trace of sunlight being cast down from above the black clouds was being emitted precisely by the minor sun, which Lee Yoon-mu had formed after cultivating the Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow Secrets. But the amount of flame energy Lee Yoon-mu possessed was far from the major threshold stage. Although his absorption rate of Sun God flame energy was 30 times compared to that at the beginning, that amount could barely enter the minor threshold stage and nothing more. However, because he had congealed the Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow Secret's minor sun. In terms of purity, it was 3 grades higher compared to that of Li Qinghong, and at least 4 grades higher than those of the 6 elite disciple like Flame Devil, Northern Black Wind, and others. He didn't need for there to be extremely high disparity between the quality of his Sun God Flame energy compared to others. The current status quo was good enough. Ding! Congratulations, host! Your Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow Secrets has advanced rapidly because of receiving extremely pure Sun God Flame energy from the outside. Your Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow Secrets has now broken through to the 10th level. Ding! Because your Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow Secrets have broken through to the 10th level, the little sun which you had congealed previously, attained the Great Circle of Minor Threshold. You can control the power of the minor sun with your thoughts. 10th level. During these few days, Li Yoon-mu had been able to use ability points and cultivate 2 cultivation methods which complemented each other to forcefully raise the Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow Secrets from the 5th level, where it was originally at, to the 7th level. Yet now, after directly receiving the attack of H.A.C.K's killing spell from the 6 elite disciples, he had instantly attained the major threshold of the 10th level. This time, no unique ability had appeared from the S-grade cultivation method, but Li Yoon-mu had finally gained control of the minor sun. Chapter 194, Great Sun and Tyrant Body. Instantly, Li Yoon-mu could sense the small sun within his body and gently commanded it with his thoughts. The small sun then came out into the outside world, bearing itself for everyone to see. Once the small sun came out, the expressions of the 6 elite disciples of H.A.C.K sect froze. Li Qinghong and Lin Jian were suddenly unable to concentrate on killing the underworld hands group of 4, and one after another, everyone's eyes turned to the sun. It wasn't that the two had forsaken their lives, but that both of them were extremely surprised by the small sun which had suddenly emerged from Li Yoon-mu's body. Once Li Yoon-mu's cultivation of Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow Secrets reached the 10th level and attained the Great Circle of Small Threshold, the size of the small sun swelled from a pigeon's egg to a hen's egg. The surface of the small sun was surrounded by magnificently burning red flame. This circle of flame was exactly the Sun God Flame energy gained by cultivating H.A.C.K's Great Sun secret technique. Since the purity of the Sun God Flame energy cultivated by Li Yoon-mu was extremely high, the flame energy had already transformed into the red flame. Once the small sun emerged, the temperature in the surrounding 1000 meters instantly became extremely high. Flame congealed from the Great Sun secret technique attaining the Great Circle of Major Threshold Realm. Li Qinghong cried out in surprise. Great Sun True Flame, this is Great Sun True Flame. How could he possibly cultivate our sect's secret technique to Great Circle of Major Threshold Realm? Flowing Cloud's slender face was full of fright. Fake, this is certainly fake. Even if Li Qinghong taught him the secret technique of our sect, how could he have possibly cultivated it to the Great Circle in a few days? Flame Devil shouted out in hysteria, yet his face was full of dread. Suppression, this is innate suppression. For everyone who cultivated H.A.C.K's Great Sun secret technique, this was an unbelievable amount of innate suppression. It would essentially leave those people unable to resist. Great Sun True Flame. When Li Yoon-mu heard the people of H.A.C.K sect yelling out in surprise, a sneer appeared on his face. His sun wasn't congealed because of cultivating Great Sun secret technique to the Great Circle of the Major Threshold. It was simply that he had cultivated the Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow Secrets, which contained Great Sun Body Refining Secrets, to the 10th level. However, others didn't know this. Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow Secrets, as the name implied, was composed of 3 body refining techniques named Great Sun, Tyrant Body, and Muscle Marrow. Great Sun represented supreme power, its emphasis being on attack. Tyrant Body represented absolute defensiveness, its emphasis being on defense. Muscle Marrow represented the improvement of one's body, its emphasis being on the body's foundation. This was the real essence of this S-grade supreme body refining technique. While Lee Yoon-mu used these three methods in parallel, no one could oppose him. After gaining assistance from the Sun God Flame killing spell of H.A.C.K. Sect, he was able to advance the Great Sun Tyrant Body Muscle Marrow secrets to the 10th level. But this 10th level wasn't a mastery realm. It still lacked one factor, and thus it couldn't continue advancing. Although Great Sun had advanced to the small threshold and Muscle Marrow had also advanced to the Great Circle of minor threshold, Tyrant Body was not there yet. Thus, Lee Yoon-mu couldn't continue to absorb the sun's energy concentrated on him by the killing spell. It was time to end this battle. Lee Yoon-mu, you surprisingly comprehended the true essence of our sect's secret technique. I don't believe, certainly don't believe. Confronting the flaming sun which had come out from Lee Yoon-mu, Northern Black Wind, who had been calm in the beginning, completely lost his mind. Once the flaming sun showed up, he felt as if this world's monarch had descended. What H.A.C.K. Sect's 6 elites, what H.A.C.K. Sect's future generation, all of them suddenly looked like nothing more than trash. Great Sun, Lee Yoon-mu loudly yelled out, absorb for me. The tiny flaming sun erupted with supreme flame energy. The killing spell's temperature continued to rise, but Flame Devil, Flowing Cloud, and the other 4 elite disciples yelled out in despair. No. They were too late. If they hadn't taken the initiative to unleash their flame energy to attract that of the sun, then Lee Yoon-mu's sun would have remained immature and been unable to absorb their flame energy which they had laboriously cultivated for many years. Now, though, they fell into their own trap. When faced with the formidable power of the little sun, the 6 people instantly felt the flame energy within their bodies flowing away like a river, involuntarily being attracted by the small sun. The situation was completely reversed. The group of 4 halted fluxers requested by H.A.C.K. Sect were left stunned. They glanced at each other, unable to suppress the hint of fear rising within their hearts even though they were seasoned veterans. Before they had set out for this battle, the second-ranked halted fluxer devil had warned them that they must not provoke Lee Yoon-mu. Although they weren't aware why Devil, who was ranked just behind Z-Hanbei, would be afraid of Lee Yoon-mu, they only listened to his words with one ear. After all, their opponent right now wasn't Lee Yoon-mu exactly but Lee Qinghong and Lin Jian. Yet now they were seeing the instant destruction of the 6 elites of H.A.C.K. Sect. Underworld Hand and his group couldn't help but feel a chill going down their spines. This Lee Yoon-mu was weird, extremely weird. H.A.C.K. Sect's Great Sun secret technique had fallen into his hands only a few days ago, and yet he could already produce the Great Sun True Flame. We haven't cultivated the Great Sun secret technique, so we're the only ones who aren't suppressed by him. Everyone, let's attack together. We definitely can't let him break the killing spell. Although the halted fluxers were afraid, Underworld Hand didn't hesitate to grab this opportunity, and the 4-man group swiftly broke away from Lee Qinghong and Lin Jian. The 4 of them displayed unprecedented teamwork, attacking Lee Yoon-mu one after other. However, they were still too late by a millisecond. They had greatly underestimated the innate suppression produced by Lee Yoon-mu's little sun towards Devil Flame and the other 5. While they were distracted for a few breaths, the 6 elite disciples of H.A.C.K. Sect went soft in their legs as if they had stepped into a quagmire. In a few breaths' time, the foundation of Sun God Flame energy which they had been accumulating for a long time was completely absorbed by Lee Yoon-mu's small sun. When he saw the 4 halted fluxers attacking him together, he felt as if he was looking at 4 ants. He said with a sneer, "You ants also dare to appear in front of my Great Sun Tyrant body? Get lost!" Lee Yoon-mu launched a fist which contained the terrifying power of his flesh, dreadful thunder energy, as well as the dazzling golden flux energy. Underworld Hand's complexion changed, and he yelled out in surprise, "Golden Crystal Fluxer? Your cultivation has already reached Golden Crystal Layer." Underworld Hand was a halted fluxer ranked among the top 10. Although his strength couldn't be called unrivaled, it was still sufficient for him to go anywhere he wanted within the 5th dimension. Let alone speaking of a Golden Crystal Fluxer, even a Rainbow Crystal Fluxer in front of him would be just a youngster. However, Fear now spread across his face and dread clutched his heart at the sight of a golden crystal fluxer. This was not for any other reason but because this person was Lee Yoon-mu. Chapter 195, Die or Serve. Lee Yoon-mu was, after all, not any random fluxer. He was a known ruthless personage who had cleared the 25th level of the Tower of Glory and killed over 200 fluxers with cultivation levels higher than his who had come to hunt him down. He was an existence who had forced Lee Qinghong and Blade Overlord to follow him while he was still at the lowest layer of cultivation possible. Now, after disappearing for a brief period of few days, his cultivation had also entered Golden Crystal layer. When confronted with such a person, was it any wonder that Underworld Hands group felt fear? Immediately, the fists launched by the two people collided. Lee Yoon-mu didn't retreat half a step, remaining motionless like a mountain, while Underworld Hand felt the three types of terrifying powers merged into one attacking him. The fist sent him flying. But the next instant the move of Underworld Hand showed up to not have been completely ineffective, because the blades of the other three halted fluxers reached Lee Yoon-mu's body due to it. However, fear rose within the attackers the moment their hits landed. They felt as if they'd struck a mountain. Even when using their full power, they were surprisingly still unable to break through Lee Yoon-mu's defense. At the center of a short black mountain in the distance, three beautiful women were attentively watching the battle. When they saw the last attack, one of them said absent-mindedly, "My God, is this person still human? Senior sister, I think you don't need to attack. This friend of yours isn't human. Either die or serve me." Lee Yoon-mu decided not to kill the group of halted fluxers in the end since he had already killed a large number of people recently. He stayed still while the three halted fluxers continued to attack without a moment's rest, but they were still unable to break through Lee Yoon-mu's defense. This was the absolute power mentioned by the system many times. This was true absolute power. Absolute power didn't only mean offensive strength but also absolute defense. From Lee Yoon-mu's Great Sun Tyrant body muscle marrow secrets, Great Sun had already reached the minor threshold, but the genuine Tyrant body still lacked some maturity. But this kind of supreme cultivation method like Great Sun Tyrant body muscle marrow secrets was not something that simple. Even if Tyrant body lacked a hint of maturity and hadn't yet achieved the genuine Tyrant body, when added with the defensive methods like Safeguard, Admiralty Cover, King Crystal Armor, Devil Dragon Bone Armor, Lee Yoon-mu's defense could certainly ignore the attacks of a few halted fluxers. Right now, Lee Yoon-mu had reached the point where he was extremely close to becoming an unrivaled existence within the fifth dimension. In this whole place, apart from the three most powerful halted fluxers who had the ability to fight against him, others were just floating clouds. When absolute defense was taken into account, who could resist his absolute power? Die or follow? Lee Yoon-mu gradually began to lose patience toward the three halted fluxers who seemed to have gone completely crazy. He opened his mouth and sucked in the small sun rotating within the empty sky, absorbing it back into his body. He then lightly waved his hand and collected into his heavenly world the 6 treasure weapons that had been used to construct the Sun God Flame killing spell. After this, the treasures on Northern Blackwind and other 5 were also collected by Lee Yoon-mu with a wave of his hand. If the 6 elite disciples of Chaotian Sect had retained their combat strength and vitality, then Lee Yoon-mu naturally wouldn't have been able to take away their treasures. However, after their Sun God Flame energy had been completely sucked away, they were no better than 6 sheeps waiting to be slaughtered at this moment. Chaotian Sect's future is completely ruined, Lee Qinghong said after managing to calm down from her shock. For the first time, a hint of acceptance for Lee Yoon-mu appeared in her heart. She who used the frightful Imperial Spear had never lost her calm in front of any opponent or enemy, but Lee Yoon-mu's transformation in just a few days affected her steel nerves. Chaotian Sect's future is finished. Within the woods on another black mountain, a group of 5, comprising of both men and women, had been watching the battle as well. They witnessed the entire series of events, starting when Lee Yoon-mu spat out the small sun, instantly reversing the whole situation. The 6 elites of Chaotian Sect had instantly lost all energy, falling lifeless to the ground. A woman wearing a blue skirt couldn't help but express her disbelief. S.H.A.D.W sect is a majestic top-tier sect. It must have numerous competent people within it and enormous reserves. Saying that their future is finished because of losing 6 elite disciples is going too far. Still, it's certain that S.H.A.D.W sect's losses are extremely high this time. Man Tian, if you encountered this Li Yoon-mu right now, who would be the victor between you? Another woman asked. Haha, this question needn't be asked. Although Li Yoon-mu is powerful, but the only person who can be Man Tian's opponent within the entire central continent is only Hanbei. It's difficult to say, he is maturing extremely quickly. Reportedly, 2 months ago he was only an ordinary person. I dare to venture that we will soon get the chance to fight against him, a female wearing a blue-colored skirt said thoughtfully while attentively watching the distant Li Yoon-mu. Hi you're talking about the continental battle? Given his present strength, he does not seem to qualify, another youth said, shaking his head. It's great that we all came to check out what is his current level of strength. Life has become extremely boring. Let's go, there's no longer any suspense left in this battle. Man Tian walked away with large strides, leading everyone away. However, at this precise moment, this group of 5 encountered a patrol squad formed of S.H.A.D.W sect's disciples who were guarding the hidden domain. Who are you people? The hidden domain has already been sealed away by our S.H.A.D.W sect. Any intruders? A rainbow crystal fluxer of S.H.A.D.W sect immediately shouted out. Get lost! Man Tian launched a punch, and the 5 of them immediately walked past without turning their heads around, not having the slightest intention to stop. The patrol squad of S.H.A.D.W sect formed of a rainbow crystal and 4 golden crystal fluxers had been blown away by that one punch. They had lost the strength to crawl back to their feet for a long while. Master, we are willing to serve you. Thump. 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 Underworld Hand and the other 3 halted fluxers knelt down on the ground, their heads bowed. After they were unable to break Li Yoon-mu's tyrannical defense with their frantic attacks, they finally acknowledged their allegiance to him. Fluxers, of course, cherished their lives. Their position was naturally higher than that of ordinary people, but the better one lives, the more they cherish their life. Not to mention that they were still just about to embark on the path of cultivation to the pinnacle. All fluxers were like this, and halted fluxers were no different. Otherwise why would they bitterly suppress their cultivation and stay within the 5th dimension? Although halted fluxers cherished their lives, this didn't mean that their pride of being those who could move unhindered in the world could be insulted. Underworld Hand and his group had surrendered because they cherished their lives, but maybe even more so because they saw hope in Li Yoon-mu. If he hadn't shocked them with the vast difference between their combat strength, then even trying to use the threat of death to force them into submission would have been just wasted effort. Congratulations Master in reaping enormous harvests in this battle. At this time, Blade Overlord Lin Jian took a step forward and asked while breathing a sigh of relief, how should we deal with them? Walk. Li Yoon-mu didn't pay attention to the question, instead commanding Underworld Hand's group of 4 to start walking. I heard that of the 7 locations, none of them were the real entrance. He first wanted to find a secret place where no one would be able to secretly oversee them. He could then lead the 4 halted fluxers into his heavenly world to undergo soul refining. After all, he couldn't just trust their oral allegiance. Li Yoon-mu walked in front, while the 6 halted fluxers quickly followed behind him. He didn't say anything about dealing with Flame Devil and the other disciples, they were no longer a problem. In fact, whether he dealt with them or not, the fate of those 6 wouldn't change. After losing the Sun God Flame energy, even though their cultivation bases were unaffected, they had already fallen back to earth from the clouds. Li Yoon-mu didn't kill them not because he feared the S.H.A.D.W sect but because he had lost all interest. However at this time, Li Qinghong suddenly said, Master, I would request for you to bring Flowing Cloud with us. Li Yoon-mu paused for a moment, then asked, Reason. Chapter 196, The Invitation Delivered. Li Yoon-mu paused, then asked, Reason. It's very simple. Master needs a personal servant, and I think Flowing Cloud is just perfect, Li Qinghong answered with a giggle. Li Yoon-mu looked at her for a moment, then agreed, okay. A strange expression appeared on the face of Blade Overlord. As for Underworld Han's group of 4, because they had sworn allegiance to him only recently, they didn't say anything. However, any experienced person would know that Li Qinghong's request to take Flowing Cloud with them wasn't because Li Yoon-mu lacked a maid. Eldest sister, I won't betray Chao Tian sect, don't even dream of it, Flowing Cloud stated weakly. You don't have a choice here. Li Qinghong picked her up and followed behind Li Yoon-mu. Let's go, there's nothing more to see here. Ling Shuang turned her gaze away and left without a glance back. Sis Ling, why don't you meet with your friend? If you don't go, he won't know that you had traveled more than 1,000 kilometers just to assist him. The 2 junior sisters of Ling Shuang chased after her with some anxiousness. He doesn't need me to assist him. Chao Tian sect also was only so-so. Northern Black Wind, Flame Devil and all the others were quite famous, but it appears that they didn't live up to their reputation, Ling Shuang said in a disappointed voice. Haha, that's because senior sister Ling Shuang is too powerful. And as long as our master is present, he will be able to resist against any upper-tier sect by himself, so how could the disciples of those upper-tier sects compare to us? The 3 of them kept walking away. Ling Shuang's exit was like a push that triggered the stacked dominoes to fall one after another. All the people waiting for opportunity in secret began to depart in succession at this time. Chao Tian sect had made such a big move with a lot of fanfare to deal with Li Yoon-mu, so how could everyone not come to observe, even if the sect had dispatched 308 core disciples to seal off a 100 km zone around the point of battle. Yet they were clearly unable to stop the truly formidable people from coming to spectate. A person who was far from becoming a battle sage and was wearing black clothes while adorning a sinister black mask on his face was looking at the departing Li Yoon-mu. His fingers clenched tightly and suddenly relaxed, then tightly clenched again, but he still didn't dare to make a move. Haha, the majestic second-ranked halted fluxer Sir Devil is surprisingly struggling inwardly. Why are you so afraid of Li Yoon-mu? Suddenly, a person adorning luxuriously sewn clothes and a jade belt appeared behind Devil. Gongza Nanggong, you're no longer the young master of Nanggong clan like you were 3 years ago, presently. You'll be better off not provoking me, Devil said, his voice coming through the sinister mask. How about we join hands and get rid of this Li Yoon-mu? Gongza Nanggong suggested with the same smile, without the slightest bit of anger. I Devil am a lone wolf. I don't need to join hands with you. When Devil heard the other party's suggestion, he was rather moved by the idea. But after hesitating for a bit, he chose to refuse him. Li Yoon-mu, what secrets are you hiding that you can even make Devil be so apprehensive of attacking you? Gongza Nanggong also didn't do anything, because he clearly understood that apart from Zhanbei, no one from the central continent could suppress this Li Yoon-mu in the 5th dimension. If halted fluxers like Li Qinghong and Blade Overlord were near Devil, they would instantly recognize his new companion. This Gongza Nanhong was the 3rd most powerful halted fluxer. There were of course many other people concealed in the wilderness who hadn't come just to watch the lively show but to find an opportunity to make their move. Although Chao Tian sect's prestige could intimidate many people and various powers, halted fluxers who had already offended someone very important didn't feel much of a threat from it. In the eyes of many halted fluxers, apart from transcending powers who they didn't dare to confront, the sects were only somewhat intimidating. As long as the earnings were high enough, they would make their move regardless if one was present. The great increase in Li Yoon-mu's strength in a brief period of time was exactly what Zhanbei had mentioned was required for him to survive. He had really accomplished it, and by doing so won this battle. Sire is a person from War God Temple. At this time, Li Yoon-mu, who was leading the 6 halted fluxers, saw a person lying on a branch halfway up a tree. This person seemed to have been waiting in that place for a long time, and his clothes were quite special. He was adorning cyan-colored training robes. Those training clothes were quite ordinary by themselves, not deserving to be called special, but on the chest area there was an insignia, and one that belonged to War God Temple. This alone was enough to transform these training clothes into something extraordinary. Yes, I bring the invitation letter to the trial by fire of War God Temple. The person stood up and jumped down from the tree. He moved towards Lee Yoon-mu and personally delivered the invitation to his hands. Okay, I will leave now. Lee Yoon-mu's attitude was greatly different now, compared to the last time when he had completely ignored the message. It was like a difference between heaven and earth. Before I appear for the trial by fire, can Sire pass on the request to take care of my family's safety to the War God Temple? He asked. When the messenger heard it, he was slightly startled. Immediately afterwards though, he replied with a smile, if War God Temple wants some people protected, then there will be no one able to touch them. The cyan-robed person then left as quickly as he had come. Lee Yoon-mu took a deep breath when he heard those words. He once again sensed absolute power from the supreme transcending power. In front of absolute power, no one would dare to be disobedient, since those who did will be dead. The system's words were correct, any individual was just a floating cloud in front of absolute power, and War God Temple was the existence closest to being an absolute existence. Let's go. After being assured by a person of War God Temple, Lee Yoon-mu didn't fear anything anymore. In a short while, their group returned to the underground hole. The three-dimensional space eyes were patrolling around the mountain peak with the system, this super-intelligent brain, acting as the control tower. Due to this, the system's ability to monitor the surroundings had increased and was certainly not easy to dismiss. Lee Yoon-mu said to Underworld Hand's group of 4, now don't resist. Underworld Hand wasn't a newcomer fluxer. Since he had already acknowledged Lee Yoon-mu as master and the other hadn't shown any interest in killing them, it was quite obvious that he wouldn't harm them. Everyone in the group nodded. They filled up with astonishment the next instant when Lee Yoon-mu led them into another world. This was a world with a star-filled sky. The starry sky was infinite, with a uniquely large sun right above their heads. Under their feet was a small section of land filled with emerald green grass, while a small stream bubbled in the center. There was also a large pile of looted weapons in one corner, but what actually caught the attention of the 4 were the 4 black forbidden tools. When they saw that they were the runic spears, their pupils shrank down. As halted fluxers, there was no way they wouldn't recognize these extremely deadly weapons. They hadn't expected that Lee Yoon-mu would have had such a thing up his sleeve yet hadn't bothered to take it out in the battle just then. When they thought of this, the group became aware that Lee Yoon-mu still had many secrets that the public knew nothing about. A world with a star-filled sky, this is a heavenly world. One of the 4 subconsciously cried out. One sun heavenly world, no wonder eldest sis was willing to follow you, Flowing Cloud exclaimed faintly, her pretty eyes going wide open. Since she was a chief disciple of an upper-tier sect, she had extensive knowledge regarding many cultivation-related things and was clear about what Lee Yoon-mu was going to do next. Chapter 197, Destruction of a Furnace. More than half a day had passed since the people of H.A.C.K sect started guarding the area in the Moro Mountain Tenebrous Hidden Domain when they noticed that there were still no signs of movement from the Sun God Flame killing spell. When one group finally went toward the center of the closed region, they were of the opinion that since the 6 chief disciples of H.A.C.K sect had been personally operating the killing spell, then by now Lee Yoon-mu should have been defeated. Not to mention that the disciples also had the assistance of 4 halted fluxers. However, when the daring group of H.A.C.K sect's core disciples reached the battle scene, they were all astonished. Not good, eldest brother Northern Blackwind and the others met with an accident. This day was destined to be the day when H.A.C.K sect suffered its greatest loss. Hey, did you know? Some halted fluxer released the information from the Moro Mountain Tenebrous Hidden Domain that H.A.C.K sect failed to kill Lee Yoon-mu. That couldn't be, I heard that S.H.A.D.W's 6 chief disciples had gathered there, and they had also dispatched more than 300 core disciples. Many people just couldn't believe that such a force could lose. Northern Black Wind, Flame Devil, Thousand Kill Mo, Flowing Cloud were no ordinary people. They were famous existences in the fifth dimension who had access to the deep reserves of S.H.A.D.W's sect. Apart from S.H.A.D.W, there was no one who would dare to confront them. These 6 weren't scattered over a huge area like the 2,000 fluxers sent from the central continent, and they also weren't any ordinary elites. No one had any doubts regarding the future success of S.H.A.D.W's sect's endeavor to achieve its plans. Like many people who heard the contradicting information, all the major powers who were paying attention to this matter and waiting for the news became silent after hearing it. This silence remained unbroken for the whole afternoon, without S.H.A.D.W's sect disclosing any news about Yoon-mu having been killed. Gradually, people started feeling that there was something strange. It is certain that S.H.A.D.W's sect was defeated by Yoon-mu and also had to pay a large price for its attempt. Their 6 chief disciples were dealt a deadly blow, and I also heard that Flowing Cloud was captured by Yoon-mu. Why though? She was strangely the only one captured. Although Yoon-mu could have taken the other 5 as well, he only picked Flowing Cloud and walked away. You dimwit, because Flowing Cloud is a stunning beauty. Her full name is Slender Flowing Cloud. Finally some reliable information appeared, shocking the entire fluxer community. Just how formidable was Yoon-mu exactly? Could he have truly accomplished what S.H.A.D.W had said? Great increase in strength in short span of time? When ordinary fluxers heard the news, they instantly became jealous. Flowing Cloud had been captured by Yoon-mu. What was he going to do with her? What was he thinking now? Yoon-mu is no longer at ordinary crystal layer but has entered the golden crystal layer. As time went on, someone spread even more information. Although S.H.A.D.W's sect had sealed the scene, many formidable people had infiltrated or perhaps made some inquiries about what truly happened there. Since S.H.A.D.W's sect had publicized the matter with a lot of fanfare, even if they wanted to conceal it now, they couldn't. Golden Crystal Fluxer. Everyone was stunned. In just a few days, he had advanced to the 4th layer from the 1st layer. Naturally, although these details were shocking to ordinary fluxers, large organizations and clans were aware about the true reason behind S.H.A.D.W's sect's misfortune. This was because Yoon-mu had learned Great Sun's secret technique of in just a few days and had even cultivated it to the level of producing the true flames from the Great Circle of Major Threshold. Due to this, many powers abandoned any thoughts they might have been harboring about finding trouble for Yoon-mu. The strength he displayed this time touched upon the fear deeply concealed within their hearts. No one wanted to confront a flux sage, who would have a terrifying battle prowess, in the future. Ordinary flux sage experts were terrifying, but the truly frightening ones were those who had displayed monstrous battle prowess from the time when they were flux disciples. In fact, there were many lessons in history from which major powers could learn about the people who would cut through all obstacles in their path and whom no one could stop. S.H.A.D.W was like this, barbarian continent's Mantian was also like that, as well as southern continent's Gea. Now it showed up that Yoon-mu was extremely close to becoming such an existence, too. What was different in this case, though, was that all these people who couldn't be stopped and would cut through all obstacles in their path had usually displayed their dominance after attaining the silver crystal layer. Yet because of all sorts of reason, Yoon-mu had shocked the world much earlier compared to them. Shortly after the news spread out, many powerful clans gathered their clansmen and included a new name in the list of a scant few fluxers who shouldn't be provoked. This name they added was Yoon-mu. That's actually what really happened. A flux disciple youngster naturally didn't have the qualifications to make the large powers treat him with importance, but an extremely powerful flux disciple who couldn't be stopped was an exception. It was because such a person's growth couldn't be suppressed. Thus, since the person couldn't be stopped, they must never be provoked. It was just simple logic. Instantly, everyone's attitude on the star network changed, and new fluxers who didn't know anything were left startled. Everyone's tone of speech had instantly transformed, surprising all the ordinary fluxers who weren't aware of what had been discussed within the private meetings of major powers. In just a few days, the people who had been questioning or even mocking Lee Yoon-mu, even the ordinary fluxers, all understood that his had caused all the powers to change their attitude. H.A.C.K sect was an exception, though. Now it in its entirety viewed Lee Yoon-mu as the greatest enemy who had to be killed before he matured. This time, even H.A.C.K sect's true upper echelon was also alarmed. Lee Yoon-mu, though, didn't really view H.A.C.K sect as an existence that could do something to him. Since War God Temple's person had personally assured him that there was no threat to his family, Lee Yoon-mu presently didn't have many worries. Underworld Hands Group of 4, under Lin Jian's instructions, advanced with the soul refining technique and threw their soul imprint into the heavenly world, then were branded by Lee Yoon-mu's imprint. These 4 halted fluxers had quite formidable strength, otherwise why would H.A.C.K sect had invited them to assist in their attack? Now Lee Yoon-mu had completely turned these 4 people into his followers, similarly to how he'd done with Li Qinghong and Lin Jian. Thus, he didn't lack people he could use. Flowing Cloud, on the other hand, vowed to never betray H.A.C.K sect and refused to undergo soul refining. Now that there aren't any outsiders present, tell me the real reason for bringing her with us. Lee Yoon-mu didn't care much about Flowing Cloud and turned to Li Qinghong. If I'm not mistaken, then Flowing Cloud is H.A.C.K sect's new cultivation furnace. Li Qinghong's one line stunned everyone. Chapter 198, Wrong Timing. Furnace? What furnace? Flowing Cloud asked in disbelief. Naturally Yeching's furnace. Li Qinghong suddenly turned towards Lin Jian and the other 4. You should withdraw for a moment. Lin Jian, Underworld Hand, and the others glanced at each other and bitter smiles appeared on their faces. With a single thought from Lee Yoon-mu, they were sent out of the heavenly world. After they were gone, Li Qinghong immediately moved towards Flowing Cloud. She tore open the cotton cloth on her bosom and instantly her bouncy white flesh was revealed to everyone. This was completely out of Lee Yoon-mu's expectations. When he looked at Flowing Cloud's bouncy soft and white skin, he instantly felt his vision swimming. Eldest sister, what are you doing? Although Flowing Cloud was an experienced fluxer, but at this instant she was utterly stupefied by this act and hurriedly used her hands to cover her chest. However, Li Qinghong moved to stop her and went on to place her palm on her chest. The next instant, a strange runic imprint appeared on Flowing Cloud's chest. True 6th dimension's runic imprint. At this instant, Lee Yoon-mu couldn't care about being rude, either. Although Flowing Cloud was his prisoner, he wasn't yet rotten to that stage. That's right, this is a sinister dual cultivation method which H.A.C.K sect obtained from the 6th dimension. The person who comprehends this secret technique will be able to secretly absorb the entire cultivation base of the dual cultivation partner, turning it into their own, Li Qinghong said while pointing towards the imprint which had appeared after being brought out by her undying sage blood in the middle of Flowing Cloud's ample bosom. At this instant, the young woman's voice became even more disbelieving. Impossible, the sect would never do such a thing to me. I, Flowing Cloud, have the pinnacle grade innate talent. How could they treat me like a cultivation furnace? But although she was speaking like that, there was some uncertainty within her. Impossible? You're only my replacement and nothing more. I dare to say with certainty that besides you, there are many other cultivation furnaces within H.A.C.K sect, Li Qinghong sneered. Eldest sister, don't tell me that this was the true reason why you rebelled against H.A.C.K sect. Of course it is. Otherwise, how could a person like me who has a more formidable innate talent than you and was treated with more importance be crazy enough to betray their sect? Originally I was the best option for Yeching's cultivation furnace. Li Qinghong glanced toward her master, Li Yoon-mu. After some slight hesitation, she undid her front piece, and sure enough, there was an imprint identical to Flowing Cloud's in the middle of her soft bosom. However, given that she was already his follower, this was of no consequence. Followers were exactly what their name implied. When some clan's younger generation chose their followers, both parties would voluntarily form a runic agreement. Once that agreement went into effect, it was effective for their entire lives. There were both low-level contracts as well as high-level contracts. Low-level ones would only be used to control half-step fluxers as well as ordinary layer fluxers. High-level contracts could be used to control flux masters. As for Lee Yoon-mu's soul refining technique that merged the soul imprint of the other party with his heavenly world, it was one of the top-notch agreements. Even if the cultivation of his follower entered the sage layer, it would still remain effective. Only if his follower became a battle sage and entered the flawless realm could they finally remove the imprint of their master's heavenly world from their soul. When Flowing Cloud looked at the imprint on Li Qinghong's chest that was identical to hers, even if she wanted to believe it a lie, she was still subconsciously convinced. She hadn't expected that the truth about this matter would be so filthy. Until this moment, she was still a grand elite disciple of Chao Tian's sect, but at this instant, when she learned that she was just someone's cultivation furnace, she realized that she was inferior to an ordinary disciple. She finally understood why Li Qinghong had suddenly betrayed Chao Tian's sect and had never turned back, even opposing her old sect whenever she could. Chao Tian's sect, from this day, you and I Flowing Cloud cannot exist under the same sky. When all was said and done, Flowing Cloud was still an experienced person. She calmed herself down and rearranged her clothes. At this moment, without the power from Li Qinghong's undying sage blood bringing it out, the imprint on her chest gradually disappeared. Only after the two women tidied up their clothes did Li Yoon-mu speak up. I've heard you mentioning Ye-Qing. What kind of character is this Ye-Qing of Chao Tian's sect? He's Chao Tian's sect's founder's second great-grandson who is seen as the future successor of Chao Tian's sect, Li Qinghong replied indifferently, but Li Yoon-mu could still hear the disdain in her voice when she talked about that man. Second great-grandson. But still a second great-grandson of a flux sage, Li Yoon-mu said ruefully. In front of him there was bestial sage, while behind him was Chao Tian's sect's elder ancestor. Apparently all those who had entered the so-called sage layer hadn't genuinely become sages and still had the same weakness as humans. Li Yoon-mu could understand why Li Qinghong had insisted on bringing Flowing Cloud together with them. This woman was just one step away from Li Qinghong in talent and comprehension. If they took her away, not only would it be an inconvenience to Ye-Qing, but they would also create an enemy for him in the future. So now, what do you want to do? Make your choice, Li Yoon-mu told Flowing Cloud. I still won't undergo soul refining. Are you prepared to kill me? Flowing Cloud said after pondering for a while. I won't kill you, but you're an intelligent person, so you should know that once you learned about the secret of my heavenly world I can just keep you forever within this heavenly world. Li Yoon-mu glanced towards Li Qinghong, while speaking. He knew that she had requested to bring Flowing Cloud with them mainly because of the above-mentioned reason, but she had to also have some attachments to her, so he couldn't kill her. That's why keeping her within the heavenly world was the best outcome. I am willing to be your servant. Flowing Cloud looked around the heavenly world, then immediately said, but without my consent, you won't be allowed to touch me. Haha. Li Yoon-mu's laughter contained a hint of derision. If he could not touch her, then what kind of maid was she? However, he also wasn't as naive as he had been before. He had no real interest in Flowing Cloud, so he naturally didn't argue with her over this. The three of them exited the heavenly world where Lin Jian and the other halted fluxers had already started a bonfire and were roasting an oxen beast. Li Yoon-mu didn't treat the new followers as outsiders and directly asked Lin Jian and Li Qinghong, so of the 7 locations, none of them had the entrance. Yes. Both of them nodded to confirm. Given that the two of them were experienced people and both of them had verified it, the system seemed to have truly made a mistake this time. Li Yoon-mu was quite startled, because the system had never made any mistakes before. Host, the analysis isn't mistaken. It is 100% certain that one of the 7 probable locations holds the entrance, the system replied with absolute certainty. You certain? Certain. Lee Yoon-mu had absolute confidence toward the system, for everything he had today had been obtained because of it. Useless suspicion would only make him paranoid. Master, if you are absolutely certain that one of the 7 is the true target, then I have a method to find the real entrance. From Underworld Hands group of 4, one halted fluxer with an average stature confidently spoke up. You seem confident. Yes, if I Devil Monkey claimed to be second in finding the traces of secret regions within the 5th dimension, then no one would dare to claim to be first. Based on the details mentioned by Lin Jian and Li Qinghong, I believe that they certainly hadn't missed any details but that their timing might have been wrong. Devil Monkey confidently laughed. Time. Li Qinghong and Lin Jian instantly understood something. That's right, some high-level secret regions entrances can only be found at specific times. If the timing is wrong, they won't be there. Li Qinghong supplemented. Then what are we waiting for? After taking the evening meal, we will immediately move out to search, Li Yoon-mu stated, making the final decision. The information that he was presently at Moro Mountain Tenebrous Hidden Domain had been spread to the outside world by Chao Tian Sect. Any intelligent person could certainly sniff out some clues about what he was doing here. Li Yoon-mu wanted to find the true entrance as quickly as possible. A high-level secret region which had been concealed so properly immediately raised his expectations, as well as those of other halted fluxers. Within the 5th dimension, people would usually have many strange encounters and at times bump into great opportunities. These opportunities being present in the lower level such as the 5th dimension was the main reason why many powers attached great importance to cultivating rainbow crystal fluxers and paid so much attention to the 5th dimension. Chapter 199, Extraordinary Secret Region. Li Yoon-mu led Li Qinghong, Lin Jian, and others to loiter around the Moro Mountain Tenebrous Hidden Domain. One fluxer was left to stand guard on each of the 7 locations that could be the real entrance. Finally, after everyone had kept watch for 3 days and 3 nights, the true entrance finally revealed itself in front of Li Yoon-mu and his followers. Everyone gathered together and arrived at a waterfall, where Lin Jian asked with a bizarre expression, "Devil Monkey, are you certain that this is the place?" He had carefully inspected this place many times previously, even checking for anything strange behind the waterfall, but he had still come up empty-handed. It seemed like Devil Monkey had been saying the truth before. They must have come at the wrong time. Yes, I've been watching for 3 days and 3 nights here. Yesterday, at 3 in the morning, I finally discovered something fishy. If my speculations aren't wrong, then today in the evening we'll see it again. All right, let's all wait here till the evening. Barbarian New, Demon, you both are responsible for warning us. Others just settle down and rest so you'll be at your peak condition when we enter. Li Yoon-mu didn't say much, just voiced his decision. Finding the entrance of the secret region was just the beginning. The real test would be when they actually entered it. But carelessness wasn't about to become an issue. Every person here was one of the best in the 5th dimension, and so none of them dared to be negligent. Even Flowing Cloud was no different. She might have lost all her Sun God flame energy a few days ago, but she was still a rainbow crystal layer cultivator. This added with Chao Tian Sec's top-notch cultivation techniques made it so her combat prowess far surpassed that of ordinary rainbow crystal fluxers. However, this secret region in front of their eyes was somewhat high-leveled. Also, judging by the fact that the entrance appeared only at specific times, this certainly wasn't an average secret region. Night, for whom everyone was waiting, slowly descended. The clock hand slowly edged toward 3 o'clock bit by bit, raising everyone's expectations with each passing second. Just when Barbarian New, a somewhat crude person, started to get impatient, the clock finally reached 3 in the morning. Suddenly, red flower petals from a tree branch stretching across the waterfall quietly floated down. This change didn't catch anyone's attention. After all, it was late at night and it was natural for some flower petals to fall from a tree branch that extended over the waterfall. However, at this moment, Devil Monkey whispered, "Master, pay attention to the flower petals at the precipice of the waterfall floating down." After being alerted by Devil Monkey, all the fluxers were instantly jolted to wakefulness and looked toward the petals. These flower petals were from the most ordinary red cliff flowers in the 5th dimension. These flowers didn't have any special characteristics and grew in various places, though cliffs were their most common soil. That's why the flower here arrested no extra attention. However, the instant its petals floated down, mixing with the falling water and dropped into the large pond below, a strange transformation happened. Red-colored Naranjaras fish jumped out of water and caught the flower petals one after another. What is this? Don't tell me that these fish are going to undergo some weird transformation. Flowing Cloud's sharp eyebrows wrinkled slightly. But her guess didn't come out to be true. Soon after eating the petals, the fish calmed down. Where is the secret region's entrance? Devil Monkey was slightly stunned. Nothing happened after the fish calmed down in the next quarter of an hour besides them waiting foolishly with so much nervousness that they didn't dare to breathe. Be patient, Li Qinghong said faintly. Everyone continued to wait. When the petals fell from the branch stretching across the precipice once more, the Naranjaras appeared on the surface of the large pond and began to compete with each other for the petals once again as well. The black clouds hanging over the group suddenly started to disperse, revealing a tiny crack through which moonlight sprinkled on the ground. When it fell on the surface of the large pond, gentle light reflected off the fish. At this moment, Li Yoon-mu's eyes narrowed. He felt an extremely vivid sensation from arrow evasion that something was about to begin. And sure enough, when the gentle moonlight fell on the body of one of the Naranjaras, it formed the perfect angle which reflected a red light because of the gleaming red scales. This red light coincidentally fell on another Naranjaras and formed another specific angle. This sort of mystical coincidence startled everyone. This scene was strangely profound. Two red Naranjaras, because of the two reflections of light, formed a certain kind of union. It looked as if red light connected the tail of one fish to the body of the other. But following this, an even more bizarre incident happened. Altogether, 7 petals had floated down, attracting 7 red Naranjaras. At that instant, all of them leaped out of water to catch them, coincidentally positioning themselves at extremely abnormal angles to reflect the light. When the red light was reflected off one Naranjaras's body, it fell on the scales of another, which would then reflect it onto another, and so until all the fish seemed to be connected. At that time, with the red Naranjaras's acting as a pivot, the red lights formed a heptagon, generating a runic spell. That's it, Master. This is the 7-star scale spell, which will only last for 3 seconds. We must hurry. At this moment, Devil Monkey was no longer concerned with the red Naranjaras anymore. He took the initiative to spring forward at his maximum speed from their hiding place on the shore, rushing forward to enter the 7-star scale spell formed because of all sorts of coincidences. Li Yoon-mu and his group, being the people they were, had an extremely swift reaction speed. Once they heard that this spell would only last for 3 seconds, all of them instantly acted in the same manner without any words being necessary. They jumped into the waterfall pond's great spell, all of them entering in a row. After 3 seconds, once the 7 red Naranjaras's competition to snatch the last red petals ended, all the fish returned back into the water. Once they changed their positions, the red light shifted and the runic spell was broken. Everything returned to normal as if nothing out of the ordinary had ever happened here. The 7-star scaled spell was naturally the spell formation which formed the entrance to the secret region, and it had only lasted for 3 seconds. During the whole night, it would only appear for 3 seconds, after being formed because of all sorts of coincidences. As for what sort of mighty force was it that caused this spell to form naturally, Li Yoon-mu and his followers didn't have time to think about it. After they entered the spell and their minds cleared up, they discovered that all of them had been transported to a different place. This wasn't the bottom of the waterfall pond, and neither was this the 5th dimension, but an independently existing secret region. The expressions of Blade Overlord, Li Qinghong, as well as Underworld Hand and his groups changed simultaneously, and they all cried out at the same time, "King's true territory!" Devil Monkey got carried away in his excitement and shouted out loudly, "My God, this really is King's true territory! 12 Rainbow Light World, this certainly is the legendary King's true territory! I knew it! A secret region which uses timing and a critical spell formation to form the entrance certainly couldn't be simple. Chapter 200, Battle Squad with a grand lineup. King's true territory, what's that? While all others became absurdly excited, Yoon-mu was left baffled. Among all sorts of secret regions about which he had read in books, there was none which was named King's true territory. But at this moment, when he saw Li Qinghong, this formidable woman who didn't like to smile, filled with excitement, he instantly felt that finding this secret region's entrance from the damaged runic pages which he had obtained from the dwarf witch clan was a great fortune. There are very few mentions of King's true territory in books. In the recent years, the number of King's true territories discovered by humans have greatly decreased in number. 100 years ago was the golden era of searching for them, Underworld Hand explained with a smile on his face. I even heard that the last time a King's true territory was discovered in the 5th dimension was 4 years ago. 4 years, for full 4 years none of the fluxers had been able to discover a King's true territory, yet we have found one now. Such a long amount of years without anything certainly verified that it had become increasingly more difficult to find this type of secret regions. But Yoon-mu still didn't know what this King's true territory contained that so many people would be interested in it. Could it be related to King-class dimensional beasts? Yoon-mu's conjecture was more or less correct. There was great amount of King-class dimensional beasts wandering freely in such territories, thus the chances of encountering one was many times higher compared to the outside world. Once Yoon-mu became aware of this, his blood began to boil with excitement. At this instant, he probably was the most excited person in the whole group, because discovering a King's true territory was simply an enormously great fortune for people who had congealed the King's crystal armor. And Yoon-mu was precisely one such person. These few days his cultivation base had had a number of breakthroughs and attained golden crystal layer, but Yoon-mu still didn't feel that his strength had undergone a qualitative transformation. It was precisely due to King's crystal armor which couldn't be strengthened without King dimensional crystals. Ordinary crystal layer, black crystal layer, silver crystal layer, golden crystal layer. After advancing through 3 layers in succession, Yoon-mu hadn't found a good opportunity to strengthen his King's crystal armor even once. This was the main reason why he couldn't increase his cultivation casually at the start. Otherwise, a fluxer who had condensed King's crystal armor and had the cultivation base of a golden crystal layer would certainly be a boss-level existence with his heaven-defying flux energy and defense. Even after searching for a long time in the outside world, Yoon-mu still hadn't been able to discover a second King-dimensional beast. From this it was clear that a territory which possessed a large number of King-dimensional beasts was a heavenly treasure. King's true territory also has a second major benefit. The passage of time within the territory is 12 times faster compared to the outside world. For each rainbow light, the passage of time will increase by 1-fold, so 12 folds for 12 times. Furthermore, the increase in passage of time has no effect on the people's age, for it follows the time of the outside world, Li Qinghong explained. When Yoon-mu heard this, a shiver passed down his back. Even if this territory had only one use to affect the rate at which time passed, it would still be an extremely high-level secret region. According to history, 417 King-dimensional beasts were killed in the largest discovered King's true territory. According to the intensity of the 12 rainbow lights that dispersed in the sky from the territory which we discovered, this King's true territory can probably be considered even larger than that one. Devil Monkey pinched his face, to check if he was really not dreaming. As for whether they would be able to kill the King-dimensional beasts, no one present here was worried about it. The 6 halted fluxers were all among the top 20 of their kind in the 5th dimension. Besides, none of the people present here, including Flowing Cloud, were weak and hold others back. Thus, if they couldn't kill king-dimensional beasts even with this squad, then all of them should just return home and start farming. There was also another factor which calmed everyone's hearts the most. They still had an extremely formidable master whose name could cause any Flux disciples' hairs to stand up. Look, the 12 light protective cover is rapidly thinning. After a few more minutes at most we will lose its protection. Everyone be careful, if we are really unfortunate and encounter 2 king-dimensional beasts at the same time, we'll be at risk. We cannot be careless, Underworld Hand said solemnly. After everyone entered the King True territory, they were provided with a certain amount of time to adjust. During this period, they would be shielded by a layer of 12 rainbow lights, which restricted their movements but also acted as a defensive barrier. After several minutes, the final layer of 12 rainbow light cover shattered like a bubble, and everyone hastily took their positions with Barbarian Niu and Demon taking the lead. Barbarian Niu had a large build and cultivated a rare defensive cultivation method which greatly supplemented his strength. Strictly speaking, he wasn't a fluxer of Central Continent but an evolved human from Desolate Continent. He had fused with enormous horn Desolate Ox and obtained its blood vessels. Therefore, among the 6 halted fluxers, Barbarian Niu could be considered as the person with the highest durability and battle endurance. He was ranked 14th among the most powerful halted fluxers, and his dominant class was Armored Soldier. He was also someone who had an equal amount of offensive power, and his weapon was a 5th-dimensional treasure shield which was the size of a bedsboard and weighed 3,600 kilograms. If he wasn't an evolved human from the Desolate Continent who had merged with an innately dominant beast's bloodline, then he probably wouldn't have been able to lift his shield. Thus, Barbarian Niu took the initiative to walk in the front. There was no one else more suitable than him for the job, and, frankly speaking, he was a meat shield who was ranked among the top 15 halted fluxers. Demon was the person who was most fond of killing within the group and possessed a relatively good strength. His offensive power was comparable to Underworld Hands, and he was ranked at the 12th position, even higher than Barbarian Niu. He came from the Northern Sea and was also an evolved human. The Sea God's people have 3 major differences compared to ordinary people. First, they have a fin on their backs. When they walk on the land, this fin usually remains concealed, withdrawn into their bodies. If they entered water, it would sprout back. Because of this, every Sea God's person is extremely formidable in water battles. They are heaven-blessed swimmers who cannot be caught by anyone except sea beasts when in water. They are innately domineering, and their position is the most unique and independent among the people from the 6 continents. Second, they can breathe underwater. Third, Sea God's people are innate summoners. As long as one of them awakens as a fluxer, they will naturally form a contract with an evolved sea beast and be able to summon it at any time and at any place. Demon, this halted fluxer from Northern Continent, was also quite unique among all of Sea God's fluxers. When he awakened, he formed a contract with an extremely formidable sea beast who could not only fight in the sea but, for a short amount of time, transform itself and fight on land as well.